All right, we know who QB1 is going to be. There's no QB controversy there. But QB2 for South Carolina in 2025 kind of raised some eyebrows. Is it a good move, bad move? Does it raise some concerns? We talk about it next. Locked On Gamecocks starts right now.
You are Locked On Gamecocks, your daily podcast on the South Carolina Gamecocks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Locked On Gamecocks. I'm your host, Chris Marler. It is August 5th, Tuesday night, as we're recording this. Burning the midnight oil. It is 9:45 Central Time while we're doing this. So I'm sure most of you will get this on Wednesday morning. Regardless, I want to say thank you to everyone making Locked On Gamecocks or Luke, Ed on Gamecocks podcast your first listen each and every day. Shout out to our everydayers. Remember, we are a free and available podcast wherever you get your podcast, as well as on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode brought to you by no one, just good vibes and hopefully some good information and another fun episode that you guys will enjoy. Appreciate you guys so much, and I hope everyone is having a good start to fall camp. It is August 5th, which means we are I'm not good at math. I don't even know why I do this. Probably 25 days away, starting tomorrow. So here's what I want to talk about today. There's a lot going on still. And I thought about this. We're going to get into a couple of different things. Weapons that we're not talking enough about, Michael Smith. And then also, I want to look at I don't think it's going to happen, but a loss to Virginia Tech. What does that mean? Because it's a lot. And it's a lot more than just South Carolina losing their opener. There's a lot that I think that would come from it, mostly bad for the SEC, but we'll get into that here shortly. What I want to talk about first is this. QB2. We know who QB1 is going to be. Lenora Sellers is your QB1, but QB2, and it's early into camp, but if you ask for a depth chart and you ask for who the starting quarterback is going to be, or the backup quarterback is going to be, and you've got some guys to choose from, the answer was kind of surprising to me, and maybe it shouldn't have been. I don't know. But the answer was Luke Doty. And Luke Doty is a guy that has, South Carolina fans have known for quite some time. He came in 2020, started 3 games at the end of your 2020 season against Mizzou, Georgia, and Kentucky. By all means, a pretty favorable guy, kid from Myrtle Beach, I believe, former 4-star recruit. He played tight end last year. Also, obviously, he's played quarterback. But Shane Beamer said that he's going to be your QB2 right now, head of Air Noland, head of Cutter Woods. So my question is this: is that bad? Is that a bad thing? Is that something we should be concerned about? And my short answer, not to give away the show, is no. I mean, I trust this. I trust this coaching staff. With whatever decision they make. They're also at practice every day, so they know what the deal is and who should be where. So I'm not really concerned about it from that standpoint. The eyebrow that it raised was way more about the fact that there's a couple comments I saw about Air Noland. Air Noland came into camp and was in good shape and lost some weight. I didn't know he needed to lose weight. I didn't think he was that big of a dude. I was clearly wrong about that. That's my own ignorance. So pardon me on that. But Air Noland not being QB2 isn't necessarily surprising. I thought Cutter Woods was really good. What it does tell me is this. If things go sideways with this quarterback system or this quarterback position, and we hope it doesn't, obviously, and we're not even going to speak out the words that would lead to that happening. But if something goes sideways and you have to throw in a backup for something, what happened? You had to do it last year. Right? Like you missed the second half of that LSU game, and you also had to have someone go in. Was it Sanford? It was a blowout. Was it Akron? Whoever it was a blowout. And I'm sure you guys will correct me in the comments, and I appreciate you doing so. But you had Robbie Ashford come in, another former 4-star recruit, kid from Auburn, transferred in. Luke Doty is a guy that has been in this program for a while, right? This is his 6th year where he will be on campus. 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. and he was a tight end last year, and now he goes into this situation. He hasn't really had any meaningful snaps at quarterback since 2021, where he started, it looks like, about 5 games. Georgia, Kentucky, Troy, Tennessee, and Vanderbilt. He is an all-time record as a starter of 2-6. And, I'm not going to hate on him for losing to Georgia or anybody in 2020. That was a pretty tough year for everybody. But here's what I think it means more than anything is this. Luke Doty seems to be like not just a fan favorite because he's stuck around through all the stuff that he didn't have to. I think he is a coach's favorite, and I don't think he's a coach on the field necessarily, but it's a guy that I feel like if he wants to and he wanted to get a GA spot, he wanted to go somewhere and stay around this program, I get the feeling that he'd be able to. And this is all speculation, but it also feels like this is more of I hate to use this phrase, but a career award as much as it is deserved. You do not want to throw out a freshman Cutter Woods out there right away. It doesn't seem like you might necessarily want to throw out Air Noland right away. So who do you feel safe and most comfortable with throwing into the fire in a schedule of SEC teams that are very difficult? Yeah, you know what? I feel like the guy that's been there going into year 6 that is, maybe as old as some of our coaches on the staff and going into his 6th year of college, that's been around this program, that understands the expectations, that understands the offense, that understands where everyone has to be, has played multiple positions, knows where everyone on the offense probably has to be outside of just the quarterback and the tight ends and the receivers, like that kind of coach on the field type situation. It feels to me that we are looking at this kid and saying, that guy is the one we trust the most. And not necessarily that we trust to go win us a ball game. And I'm not saying he can't. I'm just saying maybe not as much as go win us a ball game, but trust enough to go, you know what, that guy, I feel like that guy, if we ask him to go into a game and say, listen, we got a lead or we're trailing, like we need someone to weather the storm, stable the ground, like continue like this foundation of where we're at, make sure we don't get too high, too low, whatever. We don't need somebody that's going to go in there and play hero ball or be a freshman like Cutter Woods, maybe make some mistakes. And listen, I love the fact they have Air Noland. I love the fact they have Cutter Woods. I think Cutter Woods is going to be really good. Like, hot take, I don't know if the other two, if him and Landon are there forever, because I think that kid's going to get significant playing time. Like, very early on, I'm kind of speaking out of my blank right now, but like I kind of feel like that's what's I think he's that kind of talent. Like, very hard worker, showed up on campus early, was one that was like understanding of the offense and what his role is and what he has to do very quickly. I like him, but he's a true freshman. And you don't want to throw that kind of stuff into the fire, especially when, how does this happen? Especially when you were going into a season where you were trying to figure out how to compete for a spot in the college football playoff. And if that's the case, yeah, give me the 6-year senior all day. We are going to have we're having some technical difficulties as usual, which seems to happen a lot, but whatever. We're going to take a quick break and come back and talk a little bit more about some offensive players that maybe aren't getting enough love about how good they can be. Before we do that, I want to give a shout out to our friends. Man, we haven't talked about them in a second, and I missed them. Monarch Money. So here's the deal. You ever wish you were managing your money and it felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It is a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So in addition to managing your money, you're also building wealth. And there is a big, big difference between those two. I tell you what, my favorite part about this thing, how about the fact that everything in the app made it easier to manage my money on a day-to-day basis. It's easy to look at the big picture and stuff like that, and you see money coming and going, but on a day-to-day balike how often and how frustrating has it been at times if you're looking at your money, especially when you're trying to save for a big purchase? Maybe it's a house, maybe it's a ring like I just did, or maybe it's something else in between. Maybe it's a vacation, and you see these little things come out of your paycheck, whether it's, or out of your account, whether it's like Netflix or Hulu or all those things. Get with Monarch Money, and they can give you the day-to-day and the big picture look and understanding of your finances. Again, take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege. at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That is monarchmoney.com, code Locked On College for half off your first year. We'll be right back with more Locked On Gamecocks right after this. I apologize. I did not hit pause quick enough on my giant cough. All right, here's what I'm talking about now. Looking at this offense, we know Nick Harper. We know the freshman, right? We know the freshman. But is there some overlooked players on this team that we feel like could end up being pretty big playmakers that people aren't talking enough about on offense? And I'll tell you the one that keeps coming to mind for me, that's Michael Smith. I tell you what, I said this last year. I thought he had a great freshman year. I was kind of shocked when I saw the numbers and where he ended up on the year, because it wasn't anything that was crazy. But I will tell you that I thought that he had a really good year. The way he sizes up and how big of a mismatch he is in the red zone especially, I think we're going to see a bigger year too. And I love the size they've added to this room in terms of the receivers and stuff like that. I love the talent they've done that. But we saw how big of a deal the tight end position was a year ago. And now looking ahead to what is going on in this year, I don't think that they're going to have too big of a I don't think they're going to move away too much from that being a consistent theme. And listen, I know who you had last year. Josh Simon was awesome. He's one of the best tight ends. I think he's one of the best tight ends in America that people didn't talk nearly enough about. But I know you don't have necessarily that maybe. We don't know yet, but maybe you don't have that. I don't think that Mike Shula going into his first year as the OC and calling plays is going to shy away from that. You look at his offenses when he was in Carolina. Greg Olsen was a massive, massive factor on that team. And I'm not saying that Michael Smith is Greg Olsen or cut from the same cloth or like anything like that, because, that is a potential. I think he's a potential Hall of Famer. He's really good. But either way, I think that he is going to be a really good and really big player in this offense. I tell you what, you look at the rest of the offense and where they came from a year ago, looking at just what they were able to do with the tight end position, and you look at the receiving, it's like that. I went into the season last year, I said over and over and over again, oh man, listen, you know what I have the most confidence in? You look at the numbers over the past couple of years, you don't know who it's going to be necessarily going into the year, but they always got somebody. They always got somebody that seems to come in here and kind of blow you away with how good of a job they do at receiver, whether it's Josh Vann back in 2021. You look at some of the big games he had. Shai Smith led the team in 2020. Obviously, Brian Edwards. You talk about Debo and how and where he came from in 2018, even back then. But you look at some of the years, the past couple of years. Juice Wells, obviously, huge year. Judas Wells, we know who he is. We know his real name. Xavier Legette is a massive one in 2023, obviously, because of a first-round draft pick. But 2024, you had Josh Simon lead the way in receptions and receiving yards and touchdowns, and not really by a small margin. I mean, he had 40 catches. The next closest had 30. That was Mazio Bennett, right? Yards, he had 519. The next closest was Nick Harper with 376. A quick math in my head on that one, that's 143 yards more, which percentage-wise, 143 divided by 37.6, that's about – I don't know. I shouldn't have done this in my head. It's around 38% more, I think, right? Is that right? Maybe I'm wrong about that. I don't know. But the touchdowns, especially 7 touchdowns, I mean, that was more than double the next closest person on the team. And then you start looking through the rest of the teams under Shane Beamer. Listen, Xavier Legette was awesome, right? But who was second on the team in receptions? Trey Knox, tight end, kid from Arkansas. God, I thought that kid was going to be special too. I waited for years for him to break out. He was a former 4-star receiver, big kid, switched tight end. But anyway, he was second. And you go back a year before that, Jaheim Bell, before he went to Florida State. The year that Austin Sogner came in 2022, they were 4th and 5th on the team in receptions, right? And receiving yards. You look at 2025, Jaheim Bell, Nick Muse. Nick Muse, one of my favorite players of all time to come through here. But Jaheim Bell that year, right? That's the year Josh Vann led with 43 receptions, 679 yards, 5 touchdowns. Jaheim Bell, 30 receptions, 497 yards, a crazy 16.6 yards per catch number that he put up there that year. And also, by the way, five touchdowns as well, tied for the team lead. This has always been a staple of this offense. And I don't know if Michael Smith is going to be as utilized. And let me preface what I'm saying, or let me clarify what I'm saying here. As utilized, what I mean by this, I don't remember how many times it happened last year, and maybe somebody can go back and check, and maybe I should because it's my job. But remember how many times last year you're sitting there and it's like the first series, you're trying to get Lenoris going, and we know how the run game could go sometimes. We also know it could struggle sometimes. So people can sometimes load the box, but you would a lot of times see one of these RPO formations, 2 or 3 wide, rocket tenders in the backfield on the left or right of Lenoris, and you got a quick little like RPO and then usually a dump off into the flat, right? Which is like we've seen that over the last 10, 15 years. That has become that's an extension of the run game, is what I've heard coaches call it, and what they mean by that is, listen, like that is an easy, completable pass. That is a high percentage throw that any quarterback can make, especially somebody like Lenoris. We're going to go get 4 to 6 yards, and now we're in second and short, or now we're in second and 6, but it's second and manageable, right? So you're trying to get positive yards, keep yourself out of the long distance. So if that's the case, I don't know if Michael Smith is going to be that player right off the bat. Like if that's what we're going to be like using with him. Again, last year he played in all 12 games or played in 12 of 13 games, only 10 catches, 106 yards and 1 touchdown. I just get the feeling that kid, I mean, he is a 6'6", 255. He is a big-bodied receiver. I get the feeling that they're going to be able to use him in a lot more ways than what they did last year. And listen, I love Josh Simon. I thought Josh Simon was one of the most important parts of this team last year. And he's not a small kid, right? 6'4", 260, but he's not 6'6", 260. He's not 6'6", 260 in the red zone and being able to come up here and figure out like, oh, you know what? That's a mismatch if we can put him on a seam or on a post or whatever while we have Harbor outside or any of these crazy fast receivers on top of hopefully Russell Faison, and they got to account for all those things. And, oh, by the way, Lenoris's legs. I think you're going to see broken plays with this kid, and you're going to see design plays with this kid. They're going to go over really, really well. And I think he is going to be one of the biggest factors in this offense. And we're just not talking enough about it. We're also excited about the receivers. We're also concerned about the running back position because of the NCAA and their BS. But, like, man, I'm excited to see what Michael Smith does in year 2. I'm very excited. And here's the other part, too. You talk to anybody close to the program, they got some other bodies in there. Kid from Kentucky they brought in from the portal. I doubt he plays right away, but the dude you brought in from Hammond, at least that kid, he knows how to win for sure. He caught a game-winning touchdown pass in the state championship, right? Go Skyhawks. So I think that they've got some bodies there, but I really think that Michael Smith could be a difference maker in this offense. When we come back, we're going to continue to talk about South Carolina. We're going to shift our focus to Virginia Tech. We're not going to preview the game because it's 25 days away. That'd be crazy. But we're going to get into it, and we're going to talk about some of the things that I have my eyes focused on and my brain focused on with that game as well. So before we do, I want to give a quick shout-out to another one of our friends you guys have heard me talk a lot about this week, somebody that I have had a lot of help with from this very episode because of how late I'm recording it. And that is our friends at 5 Hour Energy. And I tell you what, it is time to fuel up and turn it up with 5 Hour Energy Transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor of your favorite golf drink, minus the alcohol, into a quick, energizing shot. Whether you're sinking birdies or just making memories with friends, this one's a hole-in-one for your energy game. Let's be honest, some days on the course or off of it, you just need that extra boost to stay sharp and energized. I tell you what, you talk about golf and how much fun it is. I told you the other day, you guys got to check out the show Stick on Apple TV. It was really, really good. You guys should check it out if you have Apple TV. I believe it's like $9.99 a month. Get the free week of it or whatever it is. It is worth it. It's a great show. And anytime you can binge a show and somehow count down the days until kickoff a little bit faster, that's a win in my book. Listen, golf is all about good times with good people and good flavors, of course. The grape ginger lime flavor gives you the best part of your clubhouse go-to without chasing down the bev cart. I tell you what, if you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is the number 5, hourenergy.com. You can use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF, all capital letters, all one word, to receive 20% off your order. The order is valid, or this offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders, but whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion flavored 5-hour energy shots today. We'll be right back with the last part of today's episode. Locked on Gamecocks continues right after this. All right, I remember to mute myself that time on the cough, so good for me. All right, I'm going to relax a little bit. I'm going to kick back, and I'm going to go over something with this Virginia Tech game that I think we need to talk about. I thought about this today, and there's some pressure on South Carolina in this game. I'm confident. The number has come down a little bit from Vegas. It was at like around double digits. It's now down to 8.5. Some books have it around 8. That's fine. I'm not listen, I think all of us would agree. We do not care. We just want to win. This is the first time. This is the highest that South Carolina has been ranked. I said this yesterday on the show. Was like 95% confident, and then South Carolina put up the graphic today about it. This is the highest you've been ranked in the preseason in over a decade, since 2014 or so, in a decade. 13th, and that it's the first time you've been ranked in the preseason. It's also tied for the highest you've been ranked in the country going into the season. So I don't care if they win by 1 or by 100. I just want to win. Virginia Tech is coming off a 6-7 season. Brent Pryce, their coach, last year by all means was a very, very, very big disappointment. They were a dark horse in some people's eyes to play really well and challenge for the ACC. They're probably not getting a ton of respect from that standpoint, because when you're picked to be one of the favorites in the ACC and you feel that badly in a conference that's that weak, yeah, it's got to be pretty frustrating. But they are favored by 8.5 points currently on this. I thought about this earlier. Also, ESPN Bet has it just as an 8-point favorite. The over-under set at 47.5. I thought about this the other day. And I don't want to go to negative town because I don't think it's going to happen. Let me be clear. But we talk about a lot about this offseason. I did, especially covering this conference. The SEC has a ton of bragging rights over people. They beat their chest for years about how great of a conference they are. Now, this year, if they don't win a couple games, it's right out of the gates. It's kind of scary to think about what the perception of this conference will be. And I tell you what, once kickoff starts, we don't care, right? Like, we're not going to sit here and be SEC homers at all. But the main reason I bring it up is when it comes down to the end of the year and you start talking about, hey, like, are we going to still get a benefit of the doubt? We played in the SEC. Well, there are things that go into that. And we saw it last year, but there are things that go into that where it's like, you might not get the benefit of the doubt. If you got a 9-3 SEC team and a 9-3 Big Ten team, now you start going back and forth of, well, like, which conference is better? Which is tougher? Which one of those schedules is more impressive? So you want the conference to do well, even though we don't care as long as South Carolina wins games. But here's the thing. I was thinking about this the other day. First weekend of the year, you've got Auburn going out to Baylor. That could be whatever for the conference because Auburn's not exactly predicted to be one of the best teams there, not even in the top half. But you got right at noon on Saturday, Texas going to Ohio State, defending national champs, new quarterback, all 3 new receivers, on the road in Columbus. That's a losable game. I don't think anybody would be surprised if Ohio State, with the best player in the country, Jeremiah Smith, goes off and beats Texas at home. Then you have Bama, Florida State. I don't think Florida State's going to beat Alabama, but Florida State feels pretty confident. Their quarterback feels very confident. And what do we know about Alabama? Not much. New offensive coordinator, new quarterback. Okay. That's a worrisome game. And then you got LSU going to Clemson. Now, we are all going to be big LSU fans that night. But my main point is this. LSU's a top 10 team on the road against a top 10 team. Texas is a top 10 team on the road against a top 10 team. Top 5 for both two. If you lose those two games, it's very understandable. You're in a true road game, week 1. Who cares? You bounce back from that. There's a couple games on here, though, that if you lose, if the SEC loses, the perception of the conference is really bad. And Alabama, Florida State's number 1. Because the perception will be, it's not Florida State this year. It's not Florida State 2023. It's 2-10 Florida State beat mighty Alabama. What is the board doing? The hot seat's hotter, blah, blah, blah. I wrote about this today on LouisianaSports.net. Shameless plug. The second one that would also be, I think, pretty concerning when you talk about just 3 that would damage the reputation of the program. Kansas beating Missouri. I'm not going to get into the ins and outs of Kansas, Missouri, because I know nobody on here cares. But the third one's Virginia Tech beating South Carolina. I don't think it's necessarily going to happen. I don't see South Carolina overlooking this team. I think this team is ready to go and focused. But the ramifications of a loss there, your season's not over by any means. But the ramifications outside of just South Carolina are pretty big. So this game, even though it's a non-con on a neutral site in Atlanta on a Sunday, that is a big, big win. Because I tell you what, you lose 2 of those 3 on Saturday, and then you got the eyes of the college football world on you on Sunday because you're the only game. Man, you need to win that game. You need to win that game for the conference, also for yourself, because you cannot get off to another slow start this year like you did last year. So that is all for today's episode. I appreciate you guys listening. I hope you guys have a great start to your Wednesday whenever you're listening to this. If some of you are night owls and you're listening on Tuesday night, I appreciate you guys. I appreciate you guys in general. But we're counting on the days till kickoff, man. Very, very close. And that's all. That's all for today. So have a great night's sleep. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode of Locked On Gamecocks, or maybe some point we'll get a K. We'll put this up here on the sign back here, and I won't look like an idiot, but we'll see. Appreciate you guys. Until then, go Cox.